how would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have Curtis joining us from United States, and he have a strong background and can speak about strong behavioral development and related to business and personal success. He also covered the topics of entrepreneurship and behavior and business execution perspective. So, Curtis, tell us, in your opinion, what are the 5 steps that entrepreneurs should be doing out there in order to achieve the first million?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Absolutely, Harry. It's nice to be with you today. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and your audience. I love the work you're doing in helping to support entrepreneurship and develop entrepreneurs. A lot of great stuff out there that you've done, and so again, very appreciative. I run a not-for-profit called the Institute for Biomedical Entrepreneurship, and I also run a behavioral science company called EurekaConnect. Wow. And so since 2017, we've launched over 200 companies or helped to advance 200 companies in biopharma device. So it's a very complicated market. So when you ask me the 5 things, number one, and this is applicable for any industry, what's the problem you're solving for? Just find a problem that has materiality to a large group of people. And that problem, you need to be able to define it well. I know many companies fail because they don't define the problem well. They typically have an idea or a product looking for a solution, looking for a market, right? They have an idea scientifically, they can do something in the lab in the world I exist in. So understand your problem. Number 2 is the solution itself, the product. Is that product well developed? And in the industry I work in, it's regulated. So you have to validate it with a third party. You have to prove safety and efficacy. You have to do this through, a series of preclinical, clinical research where you're testing it in human beings. That's an arduous and lengthy and costly process. Okay, but again, validating the importance of your product should be applicable anywhere, whether it's selling pizza or clothing, right?
100%.
The third one, I would combine 2 elements, which are potential and profitability. What's the potential? How big is the market? Can you quantify it? And this is one that often confuses people because they'll say, well, let's say your podcast, for instance. The potential is anybody that has a computer or a cell phone. The potential is that anybody that has access to the internet could watch this today. What's the attainable market for Harry? What's attainable? It's not 8 billion people. And this is something where people will say, well, my potential market's 8 billion people. No, it's not. It's not 8 billion. Okay. And profitability is important because you're going to have to raise capital. And you got to be able to show, if in our world, I'm working on a project right now it's a platform technology to go after antimicrobial resistance. Okay. And the first therapeutic area we're targeting to develop the product before you get it to market, we need to raise $86 million.
Yeah.
So before that product makes a dime, you're going to spend $86 million to just get it to the market. All right.
Wow.
So you've got
a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah. So you've got to be able to understand what are you going to do with that product once you get it approved, FDA approved for market? Are you going to sell it to a strategic like a Pfizer or Merck or a Lilly? Are you going to continue to build it and create the next Pfizer, which requires hiring a sales force? The average sales rep, fully loaded cost for a sales rep is over $250,000. Right? So if you're going to hire 400 of them, do the math.
2%.
And you already spent the $86 million, right? And then you look at how will it scale? Many of the products I work with, Harry, the exit is between phase 2, when you've proved that there's some efficacy, it's going to cure the disease, and before you've actually tested it in human beings to validate that. That's where the inflection point is, because you've spent maybe 10 million or 20 million, and now you sell it for, a company I worked with, Momenta. They had a portfolio of products in the anti-inflammatory space.
Wow.
And they sold it to J&J for $6.5 billion.
Wow. That's an amazing exit.
Yeah, amazing exit. Very, very well done. The most important one is my number 4, which is the people. Nothing gets done without people. You were saying that you're scaling your business right now. You've got to hire good people. You can't be in Singapore, London, and Miami all at the same time. Now, you could talk to people in Singapore, London, and Miami.
Yeah.
But you can't be there. So how do you scale? And who are the people you put around you? And are they the people that are elevating your idea? Do they believe in your idea? Do they support the idea? And can they challenge your idea and your thinking? And this is where I spend most of my time. So my behavioral science company, EurekaConnect, we use validated instruments to develop a behavioral profile. And I like to call it behavioral mechanism of action. Why does Harry act and react the way he does? Why does this guy from Cuba decide to go into leadership and start a podcast and build a client base all over the world? Why does he do that? Well, it's a function of motivational theory, energy, dominance, discipline, and competing. It's a function of his interpersonal skills, social skills, goodwill. There's a myriad of things that you do. My next one then is, again, combining 2 elements. What is your plan and what is the progress? Meaning, what is that you're going to do? And then progress. How are you going to execute? What have you done before you got on this call with me? You've established a client base. If you and I talk 5 years from now, you will have done something between now and then to either grow your business, maintain your business, or lose your business.
100%,
How would you describe that? I'm sorry, Harry.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Depends on the actions.
Yeah. So execution, it's about relentless execution. So that plan and progress would be that 5th element. How do we do?
Fantastic. 100%. Very good. And Curtis, right there, we to share with our audience, because we have in the raising funds side of it, we have a lot of tech companies. Yeah. Even the med tech space is also a good space to be. But companies in the tech space, they're finding a lot of challenges raising funds when they are pre-revenue. And I'm guessing that the issue here is that because it's purely tech, right, can be easily replicated, whether in this industry that you are is more difficult to replicate what a scientist is actually doing. And that's why that would be a better way to raise funds pre-revenue, because I think, and what is the difference? Yeah, what can actually need to happen in order for you to raise money pre-revenue? What do you really need to have? Because we get a lot of entrepreneurs here listening to this podcast, they get lost in translation. They think that because they have a product, now they can go in front of investors pre-revenue and ask them for 2 million, 10 million, look at 86 million. And the investors looking at you and say, well, what is the track record? This is not selling. What is the profit? How do you know how to sell this product? So what is the bottom line, and what kind of companies or what kind of structures the founders need to have if they really want to raise some pre-revenue? What the structure they need to be in place, and if apply for the whole tech industry in general, or the whole industry, or it's just particular fields like the medical field. Like, again, to replicate a product like this, you need to be a scientist to have a lot of Trial and error. So tell us a little bit more so everybody understand.
Uh, really, you've asked a lot of questions there. And so let me give a little background. Right now, there's a lot of concern. So I spend most of my time training executive teams from big pharma biotech companies. That's a majority of my behavioral work, working with companies like Alcon and Sanofi and GSK and GE Healthcare and J&J and companies of that type. Now, we also work with moderate to smaller companies, startups. But the thing that I see right now, because I'm working right now with about a dozen companies raising capital, and as I said,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere from one project's 85 million, and one we just closed on was $1 million to do a phase 1 study. But the venture community right now is hesitant to invest because they're concerned about this administration and how it's going to affect regulatory process. Let's take vaccines. RFK, I think, has some real concerns about the way vaccines have been brought to market. COVID was of great concern to him. Anybody that's read his book, the real Anthony Fauci or Vax, non-Vax, can get great insight into his thinking. If you're in the industry and you're not paying attention to how he thinks, it's sort of foolish because there are going to be changes around the regulatory burden on companies. So the investment community is hesitant. If you're an investor and you invest in vaccines, you're more concerned. Now, will the federal government pull money out of early stage research, NIH, DOD? No. I think they'll redistribute it. I don't think it makes sense for us as an economy to pull the money out of the system. But I do think there's going to be a greater burden of proof placed on certain types of assets. And as a result, the investment community is watching how that plays. And so that's why you're seeing reluctance in VC. Now, private equity and family offices feel much more comfortable investing. They understand what they invest in. They have a longer vision as to what they expect and how they expect to get to a exit, and they have greater patience. The private equity and the family offices are very comfortable investing. They still have a high burden of scrutiny and due diligence that they do. But you asked, what is it that the people need to bring to the equation to get funded? Well, you need
Pre-revenue.
to, I'm sorry?
Pre-revenue, because with revenue and profit, it's very easy to find funding. But
Right.
pre-revenue, that's what the challenge is, right?
Yeah, so it's got to be a big idea and it's got to be disruptive. It's got to be a really big idea,
Only the
right?
idea will do, or do you need also a team around you that can at least develop and test this idea?
So every
Is it
investment,
possible to give all this kind of money to one person that have one good idea, or do
if
you
that
need a
one
team
person has
around?
had, if that one person has had a track record, yes. In this industry, if you have a guy like, Art Creek, who was a R&D guy at Pfizer, started Checkmate and Cooley,
Oh.
he's a guy that's proven success over and over and over again. The community will invest in his next idea, and he will
There
put together a world-class team.
you go. He's
He's
yeah,
proven he can
so
do that,
yeah, exactly.
right? And
Uh,
so he's an exceptional person in that regard. Now, if you're a first timer,
mhm.
you have to have a compelling story. You have to have real science. So, anybody that's going to do proper due diligence is going to say, have you proven through a third party that this molecule does what you say it does?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I'm working on one right now. It'll be a good example. It's methotrexate. Methotrexate is used as a first-line therapy for rheumatoid arthritis, a myriad of other inflammatory conditions, but primarily rheumatoid arthritis. And it is effective in about 20, I believe 22 to 23% of patients monotherapy. So I give you one drug, and that drug, methotrexate, works for your rheumatoid arthritis. Many patients require biologic, which are extremely expensive. Humira, you may have heard of it. Number one
Mhm.
selling drug in the in the world for almost the last 20 years. It's a very expensive biologic and it's paired with methotrexate to manage rheumatoid arthritis. Our premise is that the asset that we're developing, this methotrexate fornate, which is a formulation and an addition of another compound, will be effective at maybe 60 to 70% of the population on monotherapy. An investor looks at that as a safe drug that's going to be repositioned into a very large market to be really profitable. And they're happy to invest in that because of the potential, and that it's already been de-risked because it's something that's been used in humans before. So now there are a number of things, cancer therapies, that are never have been used in a patient before. And the question is, in preclinical and in an animal model, can you show those to be safe and have efficacy that would merit an investment like 86 million to try to cure the disease? Right?
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Go ahead.
So,
please,
Curtis, and there are a lot of debate in how we should approach health in general. Some people even say that if the system works the other way would be better. Like, if you pay when you are good, and then when you sick is free. So like this, the whole system will be concerned in keeping you healthy rather than that keep giving drugs or invasive pills that amazing that can create one problem, can solve one problem and create another one. I like I love a lot of what we call it non-invasive treatment. There is a lot of research that have been done with ozone that is do a lot of good things for the body, and it's not that expensive. But then we have these big companies that don't like these ideas, and then they are very strong, right? On the other hand, for me, particularly myself, I think that a small pill can save your life, and also a vaccine as well. So it's not like, well, I don't take any pills or I don't take any vaccine or anything. We have to have common sense as well, because a little pill or a little vaccine can literally save your life, right? And let's don't take the thing to extreme. But what is your view in the industry? What would be disruption? What would be the future? Because the situation right now is when you see somebody that has certain age, they're taking a lot of pills, yeah, and is so. What would be the solution in the long term? What do you think about my theory that how if we reverse the thing and we pay when we are healthy, and when we are sick is free, so the whole system is 100% concerned to keep us healthy all the time, because they're making money when we're healthy, but when we are sick they lose money.
I like your thinking in that we should be, as a society, putting a greater emphasis on quality of life and living a healthier life. The problem we have, Harry, is this. Walk through a grocery store in the United States. In the middle of the store, what do you have? Right? Right? Yeah, I know you have. Everybody has, right? You've got lots of salt, lots of sugar. I'll give you a great example. The other day, I don't eat much cereal. I used to love cereal. In particular, I love Cheerios. So I said to my wife, Stephanie, I'm going to go buy a box of cereal as a treat every once in a while. Not that I'm going to eat the whole box, right? And so I went over to the aisle, and the cereal that I used to eat as a kid in the yellow box, the Cheerios, the only way you could buy it was in this supersized box that would feed a family of 10. Right? And so I'm looking and looking and looking. Do you think I can find a box, a reasonably sized box of Cheerios, traditional Cheerios? But in looking, what I realized that there was a myriad of different choices now. So that night I went home. There are between 15 and 20 different flavors of Cheerios. Do we really need 15 flavors of Cheerios?
And they
I don't
are,
know.
and not only cereal in general, right? That we have a conception that when it comes to the maybe it's healthy, and yeah, they can be healthy, but you have to look carefully because some of them have a lot of sugar, and we have a misconception. Okay, they have some cereal in the morning, it's healthy. Well, you have to be careful what type of cereal you buy, and and um, and you have to check the content of sugar. Now, brands are getting very, very smart. And for sure, there is out of all these variety of cherries, should be one that has less sugar, that is targeting someone like you that want the taste, but is on the industries in that industry and is more conscious what they're buying, because there is nothing wrong having Cheerios, to be honest. It's just that there is it had to be it had to have the right amount of sugar, minimum, in my opinion, and have to be done with the right ingredients. You know, have some fiber is going to be good for you for yourself. And but the problem, Curtis, is that because you are in this industry, you, me, and only few of the people thinks like this. So we and the rest buy the other product. So it's the consumer who has the power to this product to improve. For example, in London, when I live in United Kingdom, they have done something. My girlfriend loves Coca-Cola, yeah, and she likes the original, right? But the original has high level of sugar than the other ones, the diet. And in London, I remember that if you go to a supermarket, the diet Coke maybe it's 90 cents, and the original is 2.30. I'm just telling to my girlfriend, why you don't switch? It stays the same, and you know the other one is getting way more expensive. So with that, the government, especially with the product with high content of sugar, they are tax a tax on the program. I'm sure that Coca-Cola said all the Coca-Cola the same price to UK. It's not that they raise the price of the original one. Is that the government is putting a tax on products that have high sugar, so people actually pay more. Same like they have done with cigarettes over there. You know, a box of cigarettes ridiculous because Philip Morris said the cigarette the same price to everybody, but the government put a tax, right? So adding tax to products that are not healthy, increasing the price, do you think that might help to educate the population? Or we need to work more? Maybe one of your startups can do this. I'm for sure if you can educate the population in how to eat healthy, and we have a large amount of people conscious now, not only buying healthy food, those companies will adapt for sure. We know that for sure, because at the end of the day, the consumer is the king here, and nothing, no one can beat the consumer, not the government, no one. If the consumer say, I'm buying this, everybody adapt. So what is your idea?
But I
How can
think
we fix this problem? You look very healthy, by the way. You
well,
look
thank you.
fit with a lot of energy. Of course, you're in the industry, but what is for the rest of the people?
Well, I think you bring up so many really important parts. I think going back to your original idea, you pay when you're healthy and you don't pay when you're sick. I believe that with AI, we're going to be able to better monitor people's lifestyle, and they can opt into a system whereby it's less costly for them if they lead a more healthy life, right? And we'll be able to look at, we'll be looking
That
at
would be
biological.
amazing, because at
Yeah,
the moment
I
it's
think
not like this. At the moment, the good food
no,
is more expensive. The
no.
the, the good things are more expensive, and good quality avocado, high quality wild cherries, you name it. If you go to a supermarket at the moment they are, who can afford this? It's expensive, right? Compared with the other products.
Well, look,
Cherries have good price.
you and I know so many things about health. You know, exercise. Judy Foreman wrote a book, Exercise is Medicine. And in her book, she theorized that
100%.
based on
And
what
it's
we
free.
know, I'm sorry?
And it's free, the exercise. You don't have to pay for it.
Well, if she
Well, you have to pay
theorized,
for the gym, yeah.
yeah, I mean, you don't, but to your point, you don't have to, right? You can do body weight exercises and be in fantastic shape. Push-ups, sit-ups, air
And
squats.
run in a park is free, right?
Run. But we know with the work that Judy Foreman did as just an example, and there's a lot of work out there that's been done in this area, that it is not unreasonable that the average human being could live to 120 or 133 years old.
Wow.
But we don't, because we don't adhere to what we know. We don't pay attention to what we know about healthcare. You shouldn't be eating lots of sugar. You need to moderate salt. You need to eat enough protein. You need to balance your diet. You have to have fiber. I mean, we know these things about you need to hydrate, right? Dehydration, 2% dehydration leads to cognitive impairment. That's it, 2%, right?
Wow.
During this call, if you don't drink any water, you're probably going to have low. Yeah, have a drink.
I have my green tea, actually.
Yeah, that's what I have mine too. That's what I'm sipping on, some tea.
Very good.
But so to your point, we know that if we could encourage people to eat more healthy, it would be better. But what do you do about all those products in the middle of the supermarket or in the grocery store? What do you do, right? They create billions of dollars of revenue for these companies, and they're not going to abandon those lines of revenue.
And we have the habit, even you, that you are on the space, you have the habit of these shares. So even you want to have it.
Well, it's
once in a while, because it's the habit. You already have that habit, and it's very difficult. You have your unconscious mind, okay? Your restaurant behavior. So your unconscious mind is telling you, go have some Cheerios. Remember that taste. It's a habit that you have as a kid that's embedded. And how we change behavior. Look, that back to your backyard, what you specialize. How we change the buying behavior of not only people in the United States, but in UK, all over the world. It's a good idea to increase the prices. That solves the problem, but if people want to have it, like my girlfriend, she pays more than she has. They go, so what would be the how can we change the buying behavior of the population, or shall we, because you also work with industry, with technology, or shall we give more awareness to the companies, saying, guys, how about if you produce healthy products or like this? When somebody's in government, you're gonna be okay. Nobody can be able to come to you and tell you something about your product because your product is healthy and things like this. So what if you guys anticipate to the future and create more products that they are more healthy that we can get? For example, here in this broadcast, we interview one woman, and she is the person that invented the cauliflower pizza. So the woman on top $1 billion industry, because now you have bread from cauliflower, you have this from cauliflower, a lot of things. And who's gonna thought that the last vegetable in the list, because who wants a cauliflower? This thing is white, doesn't have a color, doesn't taste to anything. Who thought that this vegetable that doesn't taste to anything will be amazing in order for people to have pizza and have kind of the same experience, and they don't have, it doesn't have gluten, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, and it was, like I said, she on top $1 billion industry just with her idea about about having this cauliflower pizza. So should we need to be innovating in the food? Shall we be speaking with the entrepreneurs? Who's gonna lead the way? The entrepreneurs with the new product and the market without that, or the consumer? We educate the consumer and what's gonna happen. And you are in the media because you're working with the startups. You're working with the people, not only with the startup, also with the companies that have buying thing. How will be the behavior that we all need to have to to be more healthy. Can you repeat the title of the book so people can live 300 years? I think this will be very interesting for our listeners. Yeah.
Judy Foreman. It's Exercise is Medicine. A great book. She was the health writer
Wow.
for the Boston Globe for years. But, to go back to some of your ideas, I think it's a combination, Harry. I think it's that, look, when I was a kid, we had gym class where we had to get out and exercise and run and play soccer and do various things, physical activity. And many schools have abandoned gym class.
Mhm.
But, my wife and I, Stephanie and I, have 3 children. They're all in their late 20s now, but all of them were 3-sport athletes. We had a rule in this house: you weren't allowed to come home after school. You could be in the band, you could be on the football team, you could be on the lacrosse team, the basketball team. It didn't matter what you did as long as you didn't come home after school. And part of that was, and my daughter Maya talks about this, she played on a basketball team and she didn't particularly love basketball, even though she's almost 6 feet tall. But she had a coach that was really adamant about physical conditioning. And what she learned from that experience was what it's like to be in really good shape. My oldest son, Luke, he trained to be in special forces before leaving the Air Force. You have to be in extremely good condition to do that. And my son, Max, is in the Coast Guard doing that now, where he's training. So our 3 children know what it's like to be in shape, not just to go for a run, not to just lift weights. We need to teach our children that. We need to teach them at a young age. We need to teach them that diet matters. And the problem is, societally, they're watching television and they're seeing commercials with Lucky Charms and Fruit Loops and sodas and candy. And yes, it does taste good. And yes, there's an addictive quality to eating lots of sugar and salt, right? But
which
to,
end up in inflammation.
yeah,
That's why your
exactly.
company exit with so much money, because it's so big problem, because everybody have issue with inflammation because of the sugar, right?
Yeah, exactly. We know that a myriad of diseases could be addressed by just proper diet and exercise. But I had a good friend of mine that he runs a venture fund. He runs a $1 billion venture fund. He said, but we're not going to get everybody to do that. And that's why, one of the projects I'm working on, Harry, is a neuromodulation device that stimulates the pituitary gland, and it's going after obesity. It's trying to naturally stimulate the brain and send the signal to the stomach that you're not hungry, so that people eat less, right?
Very good.
Now, the reason I like that is because there aren't side effects. I mean, we haven't seen any today. It has to be further tested. But there are no side effects because you're not introducing a drug. You're stimulating the body to do something that it should be doing, right? Now, I would prefer,
and I hope that this doesn't have regulation, right? You don't need to get that thing approved by FDA or anything like this, no?
No, it will need to be approved. Yeah,
it needs to be approved also.
Yeah, it'll have to go. It'll go through a rigorous approval process.
Wow!
It's a device that needs to be implanted. So
it's a device that needs to be implanted. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. It would be similar to like the devices now that you have for sleep. Where instead of wearing a mask, you have the Inspire device. My mother has one where you implant it under the skin and it helps people to sleep and not have sleep apnea. But going back to your point, I know that a majority of people that may utilize a product like this at some point would have been just as well off had they used proper diet and exercise. But there's going to be a period of time where, and let's say it's 100 years from now, where knowledge will become better. We'll be able to use AI to track what people do and reward them through lower premiums for good behavior and good health, versus people that want to smoke and eat the wrong things and say, yeah, you should pay a premium. It's like driving recklessly. If you get in an accident, your car insurance goes up. But if you're a good driver, your insurance stays down. I believe that there will be an equation at some point whereby society can reward for those who do the right things versus those that don't choose to. But that being said, there will always be some segment of the population that has a pre-existing condition where maybe they're going to be susceptible to cancer no matter what they do. And that we as a society should come up with cures for those people. And so I think it's a combination of both. that will
And there is, yeah,
better place.
but there is a lot of progress. Curtis, like for example, in terms of sugar, right? It was a company in UK that it created sugar that is created from the fructose of the fruits, I believe. I think it was watermelon, something like this. I don't remember what was the product that the guy was getting this sugar, and this sugar it doesn't damage your teeth, and it doesn't generate inflammation because it's been extracted from a fruit and turned into sugar in a process that it doesn't create the inflammation. Of course, if you consume in that quantity, but so there are progress in high quality sugar. There are progress in the flour. The other day, my dad told me that the woman in Spain is using crickets to make flour. I don't know if you heard about that one. And now this
Yeah.
flour, oh yeah, and now this flour is full of protein and things like this. I don't know. I think I have to ask my dad again how the process works, but I think that she's like raising these crickets and then dry them and then create a kind of flour with them, and apparently in Spain everybody's crazy about this flour because it has uh, protein. Also, it has a high level of protein, doesn't have gluten and so on, right? On the other hand, the countries, they are quality of food, right? I do travel a lot. For example, countries like Spain, they are very conscious about the quality of food, or white people don't buy, or the white people don't buy the food in the supermarket if it doesn't have quality. For example, very easy in Spain find chocolate which is 90% cacao, 99% cacao, 95% cacao. Here in the United States, I'm struggling. I think I found in Walgreens in the pharmacy the that chocolate with the 90%. So um, the culture or how can we innovate, right? Because on the other hand, this woman from United States invented this cauliflower pizza and on top $1 billion industry. Um, but I'm under the impression that the people would buy that pizza are the people that they're not allowed to have gluten, that they and therefore that was the right option. But this product, of course, hasn't been taken the whole market because of why you see pizza everywhere, right? It comes to behavior. How difficult is to, or what message do you have uh, for startup founders in the space, right? Because there are food is medicine, exercise is medicine, right? uh, how we tackle. We have to be healthy to go in both directions. Number one, innovate in creating solutions for illnesses that people already have, but also what can moving the development of new food, new ways of product that we can eat that are more healthy and less damage. I think that the whole story in United States and all over the world started, I think, in the 60s. Somebody wrote a document that said, well, all the problems of our heart attacks and everything is because of fat. And from this day, everybody started to create those products, fat-free yogurt, fat-free, zero fat this, zero fat that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the body needs fat. But it doesn't need it's sure good fats. We need it, right?
Well, I think you bring up a lot. Again, you're very good at sort of looking at the broad spectrum of the problem, and I think you touched on all of them, which is number one, we don't need new food if we didn't have the problem. Meaning, if we hadn't gone down this path where people love their Cheerios and love their chocolate that isn't high cocoa and didn't smoke cigarettes, if we didn't have those problems, we wouldn't need something to bring us back to a state of health.
100%.
because we'd be in a state of health. So I think it's a combination of educating our young. You know, if you look at go walk at a playground and look at how many kids are overweight. When I was a kid, there were no kids overweight on the playground. And I think you bring up something interesting with the new flour, right? The idea that you can create a pizza out of cauliflower, right? I've had them. They're not bad, but let me ask you this. You speak Italian. When I go to Italy and eat pasta and bread, I don't gain weight. But when I come back, try to find flour in the United States that's not enriched. Try to find it. You can't unless you go to a specialty store. And enriched flour, we know, has properties that propagate weight gain. But we enrich our flour. So will the United States make a decision to stop the enrichment of flour and do something that's more natural, like you see in Spain or Italy? That would in itself promote better health in the United States. What's the economic impact of that? I don't know. I'm sure somebody's not going to be happy about it, right?
But we have to do good and make money. This is the way we need to be conscious entrepreneurs, right? For sure, you know, if a product comes to you that maybe you can make a lot of money, but you know that down the line can harm the people, you say, well, guys, you know, I'm not going to get involved in this because at the end of the day, I don't need to. I have a lot of good products in my portfolio and I don't need to have any risk. So little by little, we have to change the behavior. That's why you, as a specialist in this, you have a lot of work ahead because we need to change the behavior of thinking of government, of corporate America, or corporate all over the world, and also to change the behavior of the consumer to be healthy and how we focus in the idea to be to avoid illnesses. So, Cote, somebody's in love with this conversation. Somebody's listening and have a good idea as an top, someone from the industry. How people can find you? How the process works?
So, they can go to EurekaConnect, our website, and there's a contact us. They can also reach out to my assistant, Shauna Reed, sreed@eurekaconnect.com. And you know, there's a couple things. You know, we haven't talked about the work I do on the behavioral side, but we administer these behavioral assessments. I work with many C-level executives. I've worked with hundreds of CEOs, thousands of executives. You know, since 2009, I noticed we launched EurekaConnect around the same time you launched your speaking company. I saw that. But in that work, what we do is we help people deal with some fundamental things. First off, I see a profound level of stress in industry where executives are just stressed. And that stress is the result of poor health. They don't exercise, they don't eat properly. But there's a whole other part of well-being that has to do with the intellectual side, right? Do you know, when you're faced with a problem, right, how do you react to that? Well, if you have poor health, you're going to be compromised in how you respond. But we also find that intellectually, people harbor a lot of stress. And we have an instrument that lets us look at, does Harry look at the problem as being something that exists in the world? There are these problems and you solve them, or do you look at yourself as the problem? Do you look at yourself as having control or no control? And do you look at yourself as being the only solution to the problem, or that you understand that you need to network with people and have a group of people around you? And to the extent that you fall on the peripheries of those areas, you'll have a greater burden of stress that you won't be able to resolve. And there's been some really nice work done. Kelly McGonigal at Stanford wrote a book called The Upside of Stress. And in her book, she's theorized that stress is really a signal of opportunity. If something's bothering you, you should think about how to resolve that. So we help people understand the objectivity of the stress and or lack of confidence. So we measure a thing called expertise. Do people have confidence? And then we look at things like interpersonal skills. The number one thing that will dictate your success is a thing called social acuity, the intersection between social skills and goodwill. Does Harry connect to people And does she show genuine care and compassion for that person? If you do that effectively across a broad spectrum of people, you'll garner a greater level of trust with the people around you, and you will inevitably have more success. Regardless of your intellect, experience, knowledge, social acuity will speak more to your success than will your education. There are plenty of people I work with that have PhDs. They can't get out of their own way, right? They have excessive education and knowledge, but they don't connect, nor do they garner trust in those around them, and their great ideas go unrecognized or not properly understood. So I think going back to this state of well-being, it has to do with the behavioral side, and we don't teach this. I'm a big proponent. We should be teaching kids very early on to build strong relationships, to learn how to navigate conflict. And we look at a thing called the conflict model. Is Harry more judgmental before we start to talk, or is he open-minded? And once he knows what I want, is he willing to move in a new direction, accommodation? And we look at objectively how you do that. And if that is compromised, it will affect you as a leader and a contributor. So EurekaConnect, my behavioral company, EurekaConnect.com is our website, is where people can go. Or again, you can contact sreed@EurekaConnect.com, and we can do an assessment on you. We can put you through a behavioral assessment. You can go through a 1-hour feedback session, one-on-one, where you can get the same kind of training that these CEOs from these big companies are getting from our organization. And it's not based on my perception of you. It's based on what you report to us through these validated instruments. How does Harry think of himself? And you can, when you take the instruments, Harry, you can't really game them to get the scores you want. You can answer them in a way where you can have faulty information if you want to try to make stuff up. But in the end, if you answer truthfully, we're going to get a really good understanding of these things like motivational theory, listening, comprehension. We have a whole segment of our training on, does Harry understand what I'm thinking, or does he interpret what I said and make assumptions, which could be right or wrong? And so comprehension is another thing we find missing in many leaders, is that their egos are so big that they don't strive to have a deeper understanding of what Harry's thinking. And as a result, they don't know how to fill the gap between your thinking and my thinking if there's divergent thinking that's present.
100%. So that has been fantastic. Curtis, thank you so much. And for all of you following this broadcast on Unstoppable, see you in our next episode. How brave entrepreneurs like Curtis break that wall and achieve the 5 million. Bye for now.
Thank you, Harry.
Pleasure.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.